Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So we have now arrived at the third video in this man's hat series. Okay, we started out with a solid color and then the previous video incorporated a second color. And today, yes, we're only using two colors, but we're going to use them a bit differently so that it produces a different design. If you need to get caught up, then definitely check out those videos before watching this one. Things you will need include two skeins, different colors of yarn. You'll need a pair of scissors. You'll need a crochet hook. This yarn is a medium 4 and normally calls for 5mm or 5.5mm US crochet hook. But I'm going to use a size 6mm J US because of my tension. So I'm going to go a little bit larger. You will need a darning, weaving, tapestry needle, and if you have them, you should definitely use 3 stitch markers. If you don't have stitch markers, you can use paper clips, safety pins, or just yarn of a different color. Let's get started. So with this pattern, it doesn't matter which color you start out with because we're going to be alternating between the two colors throughout. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to make a slip knot, twist exchange, wrap it over this way, pull this one over that one and off the finger while lifting up on the loop that's on the finger. I'll insert my crochet hook into the loop and then I'm going to pull to tighten. So I want a total of 50 chains. However, I want the first 30 chains to be in this first color. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 29, and 30. Alright, so those are my 30 chains. Now I am going to put a stitch marker, this first stitch marker, on the chain, the 30th chain, like that. Now I'm going to grab the next color and I'm going to hook it onto the crochet hook and pull through. Okay, what's going to happen when I pull on the yarn is that loop there that was on my crochet hook is going to disappear. So I'm going to pull that and see how it disappears. And now I'm going to continue with my chains. So I've crocheted 30, right? Which means if I want a total of 50, I need 20 of this new color. So this will be the first one. 1. I'm just going to pull on that yarn again so that that disappears. Okay. So that's 1. Give myself some slack. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So right now, between this color and this color, I have a total of 50 chains. Row 1, which I'm about to start, will be a row of single crochet. And I'm going to crochet into the second chain from the hook. But if I do that as is with just these 50 stitches, that means that I'm going to end up with 49. So what I'm going to do instead is chain 1. So now I have a total of 51 stitches, 51 chains. And when I crochet into the second chain from the hook, I'll still have 50 stitches. Okay, so I'm going to skip the first chain. When you make a single crochet, just enter, yarn over, pull through to the front for 2 loops, 1, 2, and then yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2. Okay, and just continue putting 1 single crochet in every chain. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front for 2 loops, 1, 2, yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2. I'm going to continue putting single crochets until I get to the next color and then I'll check back in. By the way, I meant to show you something. So on that first single crochet that you made, I want you to put a stitch marker there as well. So I've crocheted 3, 1, 2, 3. You can see the tops. Okay, on this end that beginning single crochet, put your stitch marker. The reason I want stitch markers on the end of the work is because it will help you maintain the same number of stitches for each row. You'll see as you continue to crochet row after row after row, it can sometimes be easy to miss that final stitch, and then you'll notice that your work is starting to get narrower and you won't realize why. Well, it's because you've missed that last stitch. Alright, so just wanted to show you to put that on there, and then when we get to the other end, we're going to put a stitch marker on that side as well. Now we've arrived at that final chain in the pink that we're going to crochet into to make a single crochet there. And you see now why I put the stitch marker on that, because looking at this, you might think that that's an available chain, but that's the loop that we took off of our crochet hook, so it's not actually a chain that we want. So we just need to grab our yarn and pull it so that it disappears. Okay. Alright, so you guys, I put that final single crochet of the pink in the pink, but I'm about to change color as soon as I crochet into this first stitch, this first chain with the stitch marker of the next color. So I'm going to take this chain out, and before I do that, I just want to show you, you see right now that the color that's on my crochet hook is this pink. So that means that when I crochet in here, that first stitch in this new color is going to have some of this in, some of that color in it, which I don't want. So I'm going to take it out like that, and I'm going to go back in, crochet, start it, okay? And now I'm going to change to the other yarn, okay? So I'm going to pause. I'm not going to finish this yet, and I'm going to bring this yarn to the front like that. The reason that we bring it to the front is so that the yarn is in the back when we come back around. Okay, when we turn our work, the yarn will be in the back. Okay, it's in the front now, but when we turn our work, it'll be in the back. All right, so now we grab this color, the new color, and we yarn over for that final pull through. And you'll see when we go through these two loops, the loop that's on our crochet hook will be that color. 1, 2. Okay, so what ends up happening is you get the body, the final body, and actually the top too in the color that you want, which is that light pink. But then we're ready with the new color to crochet in the next stitch. So let's do that now. We will find the stitch with the stitch marker, which is there, and we're still making single crochets, so just go in there, yarn over, pull through to the front for 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2. Okay, now we're going to take out the stitch marker, and we want to put it in this one right here, because when we come back we want to know when we start the next color. Obviously you can look and say, oh well, of course we know we start the next color when we get to the stitch where the color changes, but you'll understand later why this is helpful. So going this way, it was in that one that told us to change color in that stitch. Coming back when we turn our work, we're going to need to change color on this stitch, so we're going to put that there, just marking it. Alright, and now we'll continue as normal, putting 1 single crochet in every chain across. I'll meet you once we get to the end. I'm almost done with this. I have 1 more chain to put a single crochet into. Alright, now I'm going to chain 1, chain a second one, so chain 2, and then I'm going to turn my work. Okay, and you can move you can adjust your yarn so that it's where you need it to be. Alright, this chain 2 that we just made, that's coming out of that final single crochet there, that's the top of the final single crochet. By the way, this is where we're going to enter. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch in this pattern. It's just used to get us up to the height. The height of what, you may ask? We're going to be making half double crochets for the rest of this pattern. So this chain 2 is to get us up to the height of the half double crochet. Alright, so we turn our work, and into that very first stitch where that chain 2 is coming out of, we're going to put a half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to put a half double crochet this time and for the rest of this pattern through the back loops of these stitches. So yarn over, and we see this entire top. me get my stitch marker, or sorry, get my darning weaving tapestry needle. Here's the top of the stitch where those two chains are coming out of. This is the front loop right there. This is the back loop, okay? So we're going to go into the back loop. So we'll yarn over, skip the front loop, go into the back loop. So we're splitting the heart, splitting the ace, okay? And then we're going to yarn over, pull through to the front for 3 loops, 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops. Yarn over, go through 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to take the final stitch marker and we're going to put it on that stitch. Okay. And now we're just going to keep putting 1 half double crochet into every stitch across, working only in the back loops, you guys. So yarn over, go into the back loop of the next stitch like that. Yarn over, pull through to the front for 3 loops. Yarn over, go through 3. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, next one. Find the top, go into the back loop. Yarn over, pull through to the front for 3 loops. Yarn over, go through all 3. I'll meet you once we get to the other color. I just crocheted my 29th stitch. Make sure you have all the stitches here. You should have a total of 30 in this color, okay? So to begin the 30th, I'm going to yarn over, go into the back loop because that's where we're crocheting from here on out. With that final stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front. And now remember, we want the final pull through to be in the other color. So before we grab that yarn, we're going to take this yarn and bring it to the front so that when we turn our work, it's already to the back where we want it. Now we're going to grab the next color. That's the tail. JK. Alright, here it is. Yarn over and pull all the way through so that the body of that final half double crochet is in the color we wanted, but we're ready to start with the next color. Alright, now we're going to continue. We'll find the stitch with the stitch marker, which is there, and that's where we're going to put our next half double crochet in that back loop where the stitch marker is looped on. Okay, it's hooked on. So go in there, pull through to the front for 3 loops, and then yarn over, go through all 3. Now we're going to take the stitch marker off. It's served its purpose. And remember, coming back this way, once we turn our work, we know that the first stitch that we're going to change colors is on this one. Okay, so we hook it on there. And now we just commence to putting 1 half double crochet in the back loop of every stitch until we get to the end. I will meet you once it's time to begin row 3. Okay? See you there. 19. And you see the final stitch where the stitch marker is, that back loop, that's my 20th. Okay? Make sure you have 20 stitches, 20 half double crochets in this color and 30 in this color. Alright, so now this is the way we start every single row from here on out. We chain 2 to get us to the height. 1, 2. Remember that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. We're going to put our first half double crochet in this loop. Here's the top of the entire stitch, but we're going to work in that back loop once we turn it. And we're going to put a half double crochet in there, and that's going to count as the first stitch. So let's take this stitch marker out, turn our work, yarn over, and put our half double crochet in that back loop, and then we'll grab the stitch marker and replace it in the loop of that half double crochet that we just made. Okay, and then you guys, you may want to rearrange your yarn. So I want this yarn on this side and the other yarn on the other side. Okay, whatever works best for you, and then just continue making your half double crochets. Okay, switching between the yarns when you get to this point. Don't forget that final stitch before you change colors. You start it right, and then you'll pull your yarn forward, and then with the new yarn you will make the final pull through so that the loop on your crochet hook is ready to begin a new color. Also, don't forget to move the stitch marker to the appropriate stitch. Okay, so I feel like you probably need to see that part one more time, so let me get there and I'll check back in right before letting you guys fly solo. Alright, so I'm here. I've just completed the 19th half double crochet, so I'm going to yarn over, go into the final one, yarn over, pull through for 3 loops. Now I'm done with this color, so I'm going to pull that yarn forward, okay, and I'm going to grab the next color, yarn over, and complete the half double crochet once again so that the body is in the right color, but I'm ready to start with a new color. Now I'm going to put a half double crochet. You can pull this kind of out of the way so you can see right where that stitch marker is looped on. That's where we're going to go and make our half double crochet there in the new color. And then don't forget to take out the stitch marker and put it on the stitch, the first stitch of the previous color, like that. And then you're all set. Alright, so we're going to crochet. By the way, this is like the top of the hat, basically, and going all the way down. And this part is going to fold up, okay? So as we crochet this way, we're actually crocheting the width of the hat. We want it to be wide enough to go around the head of the person that you're making it for. I'm going to make my width so that it is about 15 inches, which is about 38 centimeters, okay? And so 15 inches, so what I'm going to do after I get about 5 inches crocheted, so right now I have about, let's see, 1.5 inches, okay, so 3.5 centimeters, almost 1.5 inches crocheted. So I'm going to keep crocheting like this, okay, until I get to 5 inches, which is about 12, a little bit more than 12.5 centimeters. And then I'm going to change the colors. I'm going to change the order. So I'm going to check back in after I get my 5 inches made, and I'll show you how to do what comes next. Alright guys, so this is what I have so far. It is not quite 5 inches. And to be honest, I chose that number because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have this width of 15 inches. And so if I just, take a multiple of that, so 5 times 3, that gets me to 15. And I'll have three different panels where I, switch the colors. But I prefer to have narrower stripes. This right now is about 4 inches. Okay, and 4 inches is a little bit more than 10 centimeters. The truth is you can switch these colors whenever you want. Okay, I was just choosing a nice round number that would cause us to switch 3 times and make it easy for you beginners. But I'm going to trust that you can do this even if I don't pick a nice round number like that. And what is more is that you may not need a width of 15 inches, right? Because the person who you're making it for, their head may not be that big. It may not require that width. So I'm going to say at this point, crochet as much of, the color that you want for as wide as you want, and then switch the way I'm going to show you how to do now. So I'm on this side. This is the side where that starting tail is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet with this color all the way to this side. Why am I doing that? So that I can get this color on this side. Then I'm going to come back in that color, but then I'm going to switch to this color when I get there and go that way. And so basically these two colors are going to swap. So this is going to start to be over here, and this color will start to appear over here. And now you're going to see really the true importance of having the stitch marker. Obviously, when you're maintaining the same color on each side, you know when to change yarn. But it's not so clear when you're transitioning, okay? So I'm going to chain 2 like normally. 1, 2, I'll take the stitch marker out, turn my work, put the first half double crochet in there in that back loop, and then replace the stitch marker. And you should still make sure you have a total of 50 chains from one end to the other. And then I'm just going to make half double crochets until I get there, and I will check back in. Alright, so I've crocheted my, in this case, 30th half double crochet there, right? Remember this side is 30 and this side is 20. So I've crocheted all 30. And now I'm going to crochet into the next stitch. And normally I would, switch to the other yarn, but I'm going to stay in this color. So I'll keep it to the back, yarn over, enter the stitch where the stitch marker is, and then make my half double crochet. This part is the same. Now I take out that stitch marker and I go into the stitch before the one I just made. So this is the one I just made, which starts the other side. So I put this stitch marker into the one before it, so that I know when I come back this way, that's when I'm going to start the light pink. Now you guys can see why that stitch marker is so important. Okay, so I'm just going to continue working in this color. Make sure you don't crochet over the tail of the other pink. Yeah, just continue putting 1/2 double crochet across, and I'll meet you once we get to this end. See you there. So this is what it's looking like. I'm at the end. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to grab the stitch marker off, turn my work, get that out of the way, and then I'm going to switch my yarn just so I can have it situated the way I want it to be, like that. And then I'll make this first 1/2 double crochet like normal, and then I'll replace the stitch marker. Okay. And now I'm just going to continue putting 1/2 double crochet in every stitch until I get to the stitch before the stitch marker, because at that point I'm going to switch colors. Okay, so I'll see you once I get to that point. So I just crocheted into the 19th stitch. Remember, this is the shorter side and you only have 20 here, right? So I just crocheted into the 19th. So I'm going to start the 20th, but I'm not going to complete it. So yarn over, go into the back loop like normal, yarn over, pull through to the front. Now, as always, I'm going to pull this yarn forward so that it's to the back when I come back the other way. And I'm going to grab the other yarn, which you will notice is in the front. I intentionally left it in the front because I want to have a line here. I just think it looks really cool. Okay, so from the front, you'll just yarn over, go behind like that, and yarn over, and then pull all the way through. And I just like that line that it creates. Okay, that's just me. All right, now I got the next color ready on my loop, so or ready on my hook, so now I can crochet into the next stitch with the stitch marker. So I have these 20. Now I'm starting my count over. This will be 1. So go into the back loop with the other color, and I make my 1/2 double crochet. Now I stop, I take my stitch marker out, and remember, after you crochet that stitch, you put the stitch marker in the one before it. So that's that. And now for the next several rows, it's going to be easy to know when to change color, because we're going to be working with these colors in these orders for several rows. Okay, but you really saw the importance as we were transitioning through the switching of the colors. So now I'll just make my 1/2 double crochets like normal. Okay, and this is what we have. So you might be wondering, well, how many rows do I crochet? Well, for me, not counting this bottom row of single crochet, only counting the rows of 1/2 double crochet, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay, of this, and then I switched colors. Okay, this side is going to be a little bit longer because remember, we went all the way across. That added a row, and then so we went all the way across, which added height, and then we went back to get to that center point, so that started the new color on that side. So roughly, if you have 8 rows on this side, that's sufficient. You can also count the ridges. It'll be 4 ridges, because for each ridge there are 2 that come together to make it a point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and if you can, it's not a huge deal, but if you can, remember to we were on the side where the starting tail was. That was when we decided to go all the way across that row with one color and then back. So if you can achieve that, it's fine. If not, it's not a big deal. All right, so I'm going to crochet several more rows, just like I did this section, and I'll check back in. So allow me to explain a few things. I'm at the point now where I am going to swap the colors again. So remember, I told you here on the shorter side I have the row single crochet, obviously, but then there are these 4 humps, these 4 ridges, 1, 2, 3, 4. That amounts to 8 rows because it's 2 for each, right? I'm basically at that same point here with this shorter side. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I count the individual rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so based off of this shorter side, the side that has the 20 stitches, this is what I'm going to look at, and it's going to tell me when I want to swap colors. When you look at this side, it's different, right? Because we have that color that goes all the way across, and we're going to have the same thing on this side. Let me just say, you can change colors whenever you want, okay? But if you want to know what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And also notice here, this is where my crochet hook is. Now, notice I'm on the side with that starting tail again. I said if you can end over there so you can start the row where you go all the way across, starting on this side with that tail, do so, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to now take this light pink and I'm going to go all the way across. I'm going to stop here just to show you, once again, to reinforce, to emphasize again what to do with that stitch marker, because it's not going to be a matter of, you know, it being easy because you're dealing with 2 different colors. When you crochet across, you'll be crocheting in 1 color. So I've made 29 half double crochets. I'm going to go into that 30th one and make that half double crochet. Normally I would stop and change colors, bring that yarn forward, right? But I'm not going to do that because I want to continue working with that yarn, so I want it to the back. Here, if you wanted to, you can bring this yarn to the back, okay, so you don't have that line, but I told you that I like that line there. It's like a line of demarcation. So I leave both yarns to the back, okay? And now it's time to go into the next stitch, entering that, going across the border basically. So put my half double crochet there. As soon as I make that half double crochet in the new land, I take off my stitch marker and I put it on the stitch just before the one I made. So I just made that one, so I'm going to go in the one right before it, so that I know when to change colors when I come back this way, okay? And now I just continue putting 1 half double crochet in each stitch across. Remember, there are 30 stitches here, and there should be 20 on the side. I'll meet you once I get to that end. So I've made it to the end, and I just want to stop and take a quick measurement to see how much I have. So I have right now maybe like 7.5 inches, which is about 19 centimeters, más o menos, more or less. Alright, so I'm going to keep crocheting this width. Remember, this is the width because the hat will be like this, and then the bottom will fold up like that. And you guys can already see how cool this is going to look, right? But I'm going to keep crocheting this width until I get to 15 inches. I think I'm going to start alternating between, like, swapping the colors every 2 or 3 rows. So the way I'm thinking about it is I am crocheting this width a total of 15 inches, right? And so once I get to 10 inches, I've crocheted 2/3 of the width of the hat. So that final third, okay, those final 5 inches to get me to 15 inches, I want to have a slightly different design. I don't want just a, you know, swatch of one color. Okay, so that is my plan. So let me get this going. So chain 2 like normal, 1, 2, turn your work, swap your yarns, like the location of them so they don't get tangled up. Okay, this one will go over there, like that. And then you can take the stitch marker out. And then we will start our half double crochets like normal. So yarn over, go into the back loop, make your half double crochet, stop, and then you're going to replace that stitch marker. Remember, you should be maintaining 50 stitches for each row. Okay, so continue putting 1 half double crochet, and then I'm gonna get back on and meet you here just to make sure you got that transition. All right, 16, 17, 18, 19, And this is the 20th one, but we're going to switch colors, so we'll start it 20. Now we're going to, like normal, take our yarn, pull it to the front so that when we turn our work it's to the back. And now we're going to bring up this new yarn, which is in the front. Remember, I wanted to keep it in the front, so it creates that line there, like that one. There. Okay, so now yarn over and go through and finish that half double crochet. Once again, I've said this a million times, but we do it that way so that you have a body in the previous color, but you're ready to start the next stitch in the new color. Okay. Now, there's a stitch marker. You see now, again, why we use a stitch marker there, because it's all the same color going from there to there. So just so you don't get confused, you know exactly when to start the new color. You start it on the stitch marker. So go in the back loop, make a half double crochet, take the stitch marker out, and remember you always put it on the previous stitch. So we just made that one, so now we're going to put it on this one. And now that we're working with two different colors again across the row, it'll be easy to see, you know, when we need to switch. But it can get confusing if you don't have stitch markers, especially for beginners, okay? Especially when there's only one color present, but you need to introduce a second color. Alright guys, so as I said, I'm going to crochet. I'm going to work on this until it gets 10 inches wide, and then I'm going to start probably swapping colors every 2 or 3 rows. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll check back in once I get my full 15 inches crocheted. Okay, have fun. You don't have to follow this exact pattern. You can swap colors whenever you want. You can add in a third color. Be creative. Be creative. Be creative. Alright guys, I will see you in a bit. So I have gotten my desired width, which is about 15 inches, and that is about 38 centimeters. Okay, notice that my crochet hook is on this side, right, on the left side. However, my starting tail is on the right side. So try to end your row on the opposite side of your starting tail. Alright, so now it's time to connect this. If you've seen the other 2 previous videos, you know how to do this, but I'm going to show you guys quickly in this video as well. So I showed you a different way to kind of orient yourself. I'm going to show a different way in today's video, just in case that's not really intuitive the way I showed you in the previous 2 videos. So what you want to do is you want to rotate 1 and then rotate 2. And what happens is the corner where your crochet hook is in this right bottom corner. And then you just fold up like that. And you're exactly where you need to be to start to connect. Isn't that pretty cool? I think so. Alright, so once again, it was like this. I'm going to pull this loop big and out just so I can rotate it more easily. So you're going to make 2 rotations. So 1 like that, and we're rotating clockwise, okay, and then 2. And now we're in that corner, and then we just fold it up like that. And you're ready to start connecting. Alright, so I'm going to pull my yarn, and this pink yarn right here to the back, we'll secure that a little bit later. I just want to get it out of the way for now. You guys, if you've been changing colors a lot, you know that you've been rearranging your yarn a lot for this pattern. It just comes with the territory. You can't really escape it. Okay. But we're going to connect now. Actually, let me show you one more thing before we do. So go back. I told you guys that I was going to start swapping colors every 2 or so rows, and I did. So that's why it has this pattern, which shows, you know, the color swapping every couple of rows versus the more solid blotches. Okay, so yeah, that's the last thing I want to show you. Alright, rotate 1, rotate 2, and then fold up like that, and now we'll insert our crochet hook into the loop that I enlarged, and now we're just going to connect. So once again, I'm taking this yarn situate it. Okay, so here, you guys, you can, what I want you to do is first chain 1. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see better what I'm doing. That was like the slowest zoom in ever. Alright, so chain 1, we're going to slice the icing completely off the top of that stitch, okay? And then we're going to find the corresponding stitch on this side, okay? So this row, I don't know if you remember, but this was the first row we made. This is the row of single crochet, so you're just going to go into the bottom loop, okay? And that's the bottom loop of that corner single crochet like that. Okay, let me show you again in frame. So this is the bottom loop of the single crochet, so we go into it like that. So we have the top of the stitch of the first half double crochet on this side, and we went in the bottom loop of the single crochet on the light pink side, and now we're going to yarn over and just pull all the way through 1, through 2, and through 3 to slip stitch. Alright, and we're going to do that for every stitch across. So slice the icing off top of the cake, find the corresponding bottom loop of the single crochet on the other side like that, yarn over and pull all the way through. One more time, slice the icing, find the corresponding bottom loop like that, yarn over and pull all the way through. Normally we would have switched yarn at this point, but since these two in this area are using the same color that we're currently working with, we're not going to switch. So we're gonna connect all the way across until we get down to the final 10 stitches, and then I'll check back in so we can do something a little bit different. I am at that middle part, and we still have this first tail, right, when we changed colors when we were making the initial chains. And I went into that stitch, but when I did, it started to pull on the tail because remember, we never secured it. So something that you can do is, since we're there and I just finished connecting this side, you can tie a couple of knots with the working yarn, okay, and that little tail just to secure it. And you can weave in that light pink tail later, but just tie a couple of knots like that just to make sure it's secure. And then continue on connecting, so slicing the icing off the top of the next stitch, and then finding the corresponding bottom loop of the single crochet on that side, yarning over and pulling all the way through. Okay. Alright, and you can take out the stitch marker now as well. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so the next one is here, slicing the icing off the top of the stitch, and then finding the corresponding bottom loop of the single crochet on the other side, yarning over and pulling all the way through. Alright, I just want to show you that because if you didn't secure it, it might pull out before you got a chance to weave it in. So just tying a couple of knots with the working yarn here. Now it's secure, and then we can go back and weave that in later, and we don't have to worry about losing our work. Alright, so continue slip stitching across until you get down to the last 10 stitches. One other trick that you can use to make sure you're lining up and stopping at the 10 stitches before the end is just marking it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we know that and I just lost it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we know that stitch marker will go in that one. Okay, and then on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the loop that the stitch marker will go on that side. So I'm going to bring them together like that, and then put the stitch marker in both. So I know, pull that out, that I'll continue connecting, and then once I connect the two sides before that, then I know to stop. So as soon as I get there, I'll stop. Alright, just a little trick to make sure you're lining up the last 10 and every other. Now I'm at the stitch before the stitch marker, so I'm going to connect it, finding the appropriate loops on either side, and now I'm at the stitch marker. Okay, so I can take this out, and I'm just going to move it really quickly to the one on this side, and you'll understand why I'm doing that. Alright, so now I make my loop big take my crochet hook out, and then I'm going to turn this inside out. By the way, this tail right here that's still connected, we can cut this as well. Just leave a little bit long enough so you can weave it in. But the reason I'm cutting it now is because I want to turn this inside out, and things will just get more tangled if it's still connected to the skein. Alright, so turn this inside out like this. So just stick your hand in there and pull. So it's like this. And then rotate so it's like this, okay? And now, the loop, you might be like, where's the loop? Where's our loop? It's right here, okay? So the loop is here. We'll take our crochet hook and reinsert it, and then we'll pull on the yarn to make the loop small. Alright. So we're going to, you see, this is the last stitch that we went through right here, okay? So this will be the next loop that we go in. By the way, you'll notice that now the single crochet side is the side that's closest to us, okay? So this is the last loop that we use. This right here, and you can see because it's pulling up on that loop, this is the next loop that we're going to use. But before we do that, we're going to chain one. So chain one, and then go into the next loop, which is right there, that bottom loop of the single crochet, okay? So go in there like that, and then yarn over and pull through to the front and pull all the way through. We just want to get that yarn there, okay? And now we're going to go into that stitch with the stitch marker. I just marked it there so that you would know which stitch you were crocheting into. So I'm going to take this out now, and I'm going to slice the icing off the top of that whole stitch, okay? And make sure your yarn, before you do that, make sure your yarn is out. Okay, now slice the icing off the top of the stitch, and then yarn over and slip stitch all the way through like that, okay? Now we find the next loop of the bottom of the single crochet, which is there, and we find the next stitch on the other side, there, slicing the icing, and then we slip stitch, okay? The reason, you guys, that we turned it inside out is because when we fold this up, we don't want this ridge that we can currently see that we're making right now, that ridge right there, we don't want that to show, okay? So we turned it inside out so that, because remember, we're going to fold it up, so that when we fold it up, it will not be visible, it will not be an eyesore. Once again, I'll show you one more time. Find the bottom loop of the single crochet on this side, find the corresponding stitch on the other side, slicing the icing off the top of the cake like that. Yarn over, pull all the way through for the slip stitch. Continue in that fashion all the way to the end, and I'll meet you there. We're now down to the final stitch. Just get in the corner wherever you can, and then slice the icing off the top of the cake of the final stitch and slip stitch. Alright, now we're going to chain one. Okay, and we'll cut our yarn. And you can, since there's a tail here, you can line those two up so they're, and cut so they're of comparable length. Pull through, and then tie a couple of knots. 1, 2, and then we can weave those tails in. Okay, you can weave them in through this. I'll show you this one example of weaving in, just so you see how to do it if you've never done it. For those of you who are beginners and have never seen me weave in the tail, just go through in one direction through some stitches like that, and then you'll take a different path going back in the other direction, a slightly different path. We're just basically knotting that yarn through the stitches, and then at that point you'll make sure you have the right shape, and then you'll cut your yarn down. Okay, so when I say weave in the tail, all the tails you will do exactly the same way. See this ridge? When we fold it up, you guys, it will not be visible, right? See? But if we didn't turn it inside out and we folded it up, it would be like this, and you would have seen that ridge there. Okay, but now, since we folded it inside out, that ridge is on the inside, and that was what we wanted. That was the purpose of doing that. Alright, so now that's done. So all we need to do, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the full hat. Okay, now we need to seal up this top. Okay, so I like that. I like how that ended up working out. So let's seal this up. So now it's time to seal up this top. We're going to use some yarn. I'm going to use the light pink yarn this time. Just leave yourself a little bit like that. Okay. And then we're going to grab our darning weaving tapestry needle. By the way, it doesn't matter which pink you use. I just want to use something different. Okay. And if you want, you can tie a couple of loose knots like that. That's fine. Okay. So now we will start. It doesn't matter where you start, honestly, but I'm going to start right here. Okay, so see these ridges? We're basically going to go into the top of the ridges. So I'll start here. Let me zoom in. Okay, so we'll pull that all the way through and we'll until we have just a little bit of tail left. We're going to leave that tail there because we're going to come, when we get back around, we'll tie a couple of knots to secure it. So I have like about that much tail, okay? And that's going to end up being too much, or, you know, more than enough, I should say, okay? And basically we're going to, at the end of each ridge, just go into the same spot. So let me zoom in a little bit more, just to make sure you can see, okay? And so pull all the way around, okay? We're not going to pull it super tight yet because we're just trying to get the yarn through the ridges. So ridge at the end, in there. And you don't have to be super precise, but just make sure you're going into the ends of the columns with the ridges. Ridge, so there. So continue working at the end of each ridge, and I'll check back in once I get to this ridge, okay? And make sure you have this tail. Alright, see you in a bit. I'm almost done. One more. Going in there. And now I'm pretty much back to where I started with this tail. So now I'm going to grab this tail and this tail. And you can see I've made my way all the way around, right? I'm going to pull these together so that it starts to close up. I like to kind of put my fingers in there and make sure it's like that, molding it out so that the circle closes up well. So I like to go in and push out on the top just so I can get as small of a hole as possible. Once you get the hole as small as you can get it, then we're going to tie a couple of knots. Okay, see how this tail got much longer once we pulled the yarn through? Okay, so now we'll tie a couple of knots. So just rotate this so I can get a better grip and tie. The first one is to get it as small as possible, and then the second one is to secure the second knot. Alright, now you guys, that it's secure, you see there's just a little itty bitty hole still there. So now I'm going to use the part of the yarn that's still attached to the darning weaving tapestry needle, and I'm just going to crochet. I'm going to weave it in. So the yarn is over here right now. I'm going to go to the other side and just go through the stitches closest to, a few stitches that are closest to the hole, and pull through like that, and that closes it up. Now it's there, so I'm going to go across to the other side, and the more you do this, the smaller the hole will get. You'll eventually get it to close up very well, okay? And now I'm going to go over here like that. Just get in where you can, and you do this until you are satisfied with the top, with how the top looks. You want it to be nice and closed. Okay, so pull through. Alright, don't really see much of a hole left, but I'll go over here through that one just to make sure, and I'll try not to split my yarn too. Be mindful of that when you're going through the stitches. And since that's the last one, as I'm closing this loop, I'm going to bring my darning weaving tapestry needle through it like that. The reason I do that is because as it closes to a singularity, it will create a knot. Okay. Alright, perfect. Now I'm going to take this darning weaving tapestry needle, go through the top of the hat to the inside, and I'm going to bring that yarn that I'm working with to the inside. So it disappeared, and it's now being brought to the inside of the hat. Alright, that's that. We still have this, there's a little bit of the loop left, so I'm going to pull more. Now it's on the inside, okay? And then I'm going to take off the darning weaving tapestry needle, and this is that initial tail when we started, right? Closing up the top of the hat. I'm going to bring that to the inside as well. So I'll feed it through the darning weaving tapestry needle and do the same thing. Just go in from the top, push it in, bring it in like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the inside, and now you see these two strands are coming from the top. We can cut these way down. You can't see how long they are, but I'm going to cut them down to like that. And now where two or more gathered, I'm going to tie a couple of knots just to secure it. 1 and 2. Now I can really cut these down. If you want, you could weave them into the pink. It's secure, so don't kill yourself, okay? Let me show you a full view. By the way, before I show you that full view, any of these tails that are not secure, that you feel are not secure, just weave them into the appropriate colors, okay? Alright guys, so this is the final product. Isn't it beautiful? You got the solid blotches, and then you see on this side, that's where the striping started. It's very stretchy, expandable because of the fact that we were working in the back loops. And I just like how it alternates. You know, I got a funny question. Some questions are really rhetorical, but the person was asking, how do you know basically what's the difference between a man and woman's hat? Obviously the size, and yeah, one could say the colors, but I mean they're colors that guys like that people think are for women, and vice versa. So yeah, mainly the size. Okay. Obviously, when I was making this video, this tutorial, this is part of a series, I was thinking of Father's Day gift ideas. And one might not consider this a hat for a guy. But, you know, in certain circles, it might be the perfect hat for a guy. So who am I to say? Mainly it's the size, which is why you want to make sure you have the appropriate width. Okay, and even the length, but more so the width for this type of hat. Okay, obviously, in most cases, not all, you won't need as much width for a woman's head. Or you can make this hat, you can use this pattern for a child, okay? Just adjusting the measurements. I went with these colors because I know a lot of you complain that sometimes the colors that I use are too dark and can't, you know, be seen very easily by everyone. So I went with these light colors. Although this is a part of the, you know, how to crochet a men's hat series, obviously you can make it for women. But when I made the first one to practice, I was thinking about, you know, man, right? Or typical man, stereotypical man. And I like these colors, but I was worried that you wouldn't be able to see the charcoal color well. So that's why I changed it for this one. In this one, I stuck with just the simple striping of, you know, charcoal blue all around, okay? The thing I like about this one, though, is I like the fact that when I was working with the charcoal up here, it was blue down here, and, you know, blue up here, charcoal up here. So it's all a matter of how you arrange your colors. All right, this one, it was basically the same. If I folded this up higher, okay, and I wouldn't do it with this hat because remember I only reserved the last 10, so if I wanted to fold it up higher, I would reserve maybe the last 20 or 15 or 20 and fold it up higher, and then you would have that effect. That effect would be more noticeable, but it light pink up here and then dark pink here, and it alternates. So yeah, that's why I really like, you know, these two hats. When I was designing this, I was like, I want this part to be a different color than the top, and I want it to alternate, and so you have that effect, and it's a really cool effect. Okay, so yes, these are options, guys, and as I said, you can start alternating, you know, more often, and you'll get a different striping pattern. It's just really cool. The options are limitless, especially if you are a creative person, which I think I am. So anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Have fun with it. Feel free to deviate as necessary, and let me know what cool designs you come up with. But you know, I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting.